And so this morning at about 6:30, she said to me, until then I wasn't any part of this, but this morning at 6:30 she said, would you mind getting up and singing that song? So I think it's part of marriage vows or something. In any case, I will be singing that song momentarily, and like the Sam McGee poem, it will be an abridged version without the chorus. So for all of you that are just waiting to join into the chorus, there's no such chance. Anyway, but just to set up the song for a minute, it is a song that he wrote about the Northwest Passage and about adventure generally. Of course, when the Europeans concluded that the world was round, they came to the conclusion that instead of always just going east to get to China, you could go west to get to China. And so the whole idea of crossing the ocean was to get to China, and they had the unfortunate experience of bumping into an inhabited continent in the middle, and that was being North and South America. So there was always this extreme efforts to get across this thing. It was sort of seen for a long time as an impediment. And by the time, like hundreds of years later or whatever, they had, there were colonies in Hong Kong and New Zealand and Australia and Singapore and whatnot. They knew what the other side was like, but getting across was still a challenge. And to some extent, explorers like Franklin in the Arctic Islands, Thompson on the Columbia River, Fraser on now the Fraser River, Mackenzie getting to the Beaufort Sea, they were partly discovery issues, but because people sort of already knew what the other side was like from sailing around it, they were also sort of akin to climbing Mount Everest in the sense that they were doing things for adventure, to discover, to be able to say they did it, and so that was part of the Northwest Passage. And so in that sense, the Northwest Passage is as much was a geographical adventure as an adventure of the soul, of proving yourself, of proving your mettle, of getting there. So the song kind of speaks to those things, both historically and then it bridges into Sam Rogers talking about driving across the country. So here goes, unrehearsed. For just one time I would take the Northwest Passage to find the hand of Franklin reaching for the Beaufort Sea, tracing one warm line through a land so wild and savage, and make a Northwest Passage to the sea. Westward from the Davis Strait 'tis there 'twas said to lie, the sea route to the Orient for which so many died, seeking gold and glory, leaving weathered broken bones, and a long-forgotten lonely cairn of stones. 3 centuries thereafter I take passage overland, in the footsteps of brave Kelso where his sea of flowers began. Watching cities rise before me, then behind me sink again. This tardiest explorer driving hard across the plain. And through the night behind the wheel, the mileage clicking west, I think about Mackenzie, David, Thompson, and the rest, who cracked the mountain ramparts and did show a path for me to race the roaring Fraser to the sea. How then am I so different from the first men through this place? Like them I left a settled life, I threw it all away, to seek a Northwest Passage at the call of many men, to find there but the road back home again.
Thanks, Robin. You're a trooper. So this song is a favorite of many of our friends from our days in the North. Stan Rogers had a genius for evoking our connection to place. This piece speaks to the wanderlust that brings those seeking adventures to the frontiers and edges, and the tug of home in their hearts that brings their past with them to new places for better or worse. Robin and I met married, had our kids in Yellowknife, Northwest Territories. Robin was the director of parks and tourism for 10 years, and I was there for 20, working as a designer for the NWT government between raising a family. And the North still has a strong hold on us. With the exception of the southern regions, BC, Yukon, the Northwest Territories, Nunavut, and also the northern areas of Ontario and Quebec and the prairies share a common feature, the shield. This fortress of rock and precious little soil precludes the presence of any significant agriculture and its drive for settlement and to own land. For over 2 centuries, the shield and the interests of the fur trade discouraged efforts for settlement in much of Canada. Today, the country is for the most part owned and settled, but the land in the north is still largely open. Unlike here, where almost everything is private land, the north is for the most part in crown land. And you are free to wander almost anywhere you please outside of towny limits. With this openness of land comes a different relationship with place and people. There is a possibility, an opening, because individual private interests are largely absent. This doesn't mean that there aren't struggles. Many depend for their livelihood on resource extraction and all the conflicting interests that come with that. But it's a different negotiation that becomes possible with open lands. Just imagine what would have happened on the prairies had we not gone for cattle and just left the buffalo roam and lived with that. It would have been a different possibility. It is this openness of possibilities that I think attracted us and others to the frontier edges. While the comforts of home and tradition are attractive, they can be stifling if you need to press against the edges. Consequently, the North is thick with fellow adventurers and misfits who would be happy to live on a houseboat and deal with a honey bucket in the winter. It's filled with people who are up for a challenge. Other than the indigenous people, those who head north rarely go with the intention to settle. They are going to a job or to do service, and there is a tacit understanding that at some point your services will no longer be required and you will leave the area. You are visitors in a land occupied by the indigenous people, and you had best learn to embrace their aspirations, or at least respect them. This living together is not always easy. Even with the best of intentions, the new agent is disruptive. Living on this edge made us aware that what we bring to new situations leads to change, sometimes with unintended consequences. There is no turning back for anyone once the explorer arrives. Be that an explorer of land, ideas, or technology, change is disruptive, sometimes beneficial, sometimes destructive. During our time in the North, the area was rapidly changing, much of it directed by a delicate balance between a territorial government with no political parties, a federal government dominated by party interests, native land claims, and mining interests and exploration. It was, and probably still is, a political junkie's paradise. It's all new, and everyone has an opportunity to take part in it. Sometimes it was frustrating and messy. Imagine 8 official languages. But it was always guided by a desire to find consensus through respect, and hence 8 official languages. The people in the North are trying to carve out a new vision of partnership. And central to this partnership is the land. It is a land so vast. We looked out our window over Great Slave Lake, and there were no roads or settlements for thousands of miles. You were always aware of the shield. Our house was built right on top of it. You know its power to isolate, its treasures of gold and diamonds and oil that have brought people to the area, and the adaptations it has forced upon the people, the flora, and the fauna. A land that challenges human intervention. A land of many interests that can still be shared with respect if wisdom and good faith are prevailed. It is a place of opportunity, not just to get rich, but the opportunity to get it right. I think that is the dream that the North holds for many Canadians. There is an intuitive sense that maybe it is a place where we can get a chance to do a do-over. It is still a frontier with possibilities. We leave these possibilities to be realized in the hands of explorers and adventurers who are willing to try something new. Like the explorer in Stan's Northwest Passage, there are some who yearn to seek new opportunities and ideas. But no matter how far we go in our travels and advances in ideas, we bring a part of our embedded culture with us. The challenge will always be to work through these explorations and assumptions we bring with deep wisdom, respect, and inspiration. And I think that is what is so exciting about the North. Thank you.
I invite you, as you listen to these words of Robert's service, to consider what frontiers beckon you, either from within or without. The land of beyond. Have you ever heard of the land of beyond that dreams at the gates of the day? Alluring, it lies at the skirts of the skies and ever so far away. Alluring, it calls. O ye, the yoke galls, and ye of the trail over fond, with saddle and pack, by paddle and track, let's go to the land of beyond. Have ever you stood where the silences brood and vast the horizons begin? At the dawn of the day to behold far away the goal you would strive for and win? Yet, in the night when you gain to the height, with the vast pool of heaven star-spawned, afar and a gleam like a valley of dream, still mocks you a land of beyond. Thank God there is always a land of beyond for us who are true to the trail, a vision to seek, a beckoning peak, a farness that never will fail, a pride in our soul that mocks at a goal, a manhood that irks at a bond. And try how we will, unattainable still, behold it, our land of beyond.